superior, there is a middle, there is an inferior. So superior and middle and inferior act as a sling. So it's like as you all know, you carry the sling bag, so it goes from all around the neck. So it's same, it acts like a sling. Inferior glenohumeral ligament. So it has the anterior band, inferior glenohumeral ligament has three bands: anterior band, axillary fold, and the posterior band. And then comes to the rotator interval. It is the most important thing which you have to learn in the dissect apparatus of the frozen shoulder. And what is rotator interval? It's a triangular region between anterior border of the supraspinatus and superior border of the subscapularis. And it contains the superior glenohumeral ligament and the thoracohumeral ligament. So this is the picture of the shoulder joint. This is the sagittal view of the shoulder joint. In this picture, you can see the superior glenohumeral ligament. Here it is superior glenohumeral ligament. This is the middle glenohumeral ligament, and this is the inferior glenohumeral ligament. As you all can appreciate, it goes from anterior to posterior, and it acts like a sling. Okay, and this is the AP view. In this, you can see the glenohumeral ligaments, all the three. This is the superior, this is the middle one, and this inferior part of the glenohumeral ligament. And this is the rotator interval, which is surrounded by the, as you already learned, this is surrounded by anterior border of superior supraspinatus and superior border of the subscapularis. So supraspinatus and the subscapularis. And this is the thyroid part. This small part, this small triangular space is known as rotator interval, and it contains the supraglenohumeral ligament and the thoracohumeral ligament. Then comes to the types of the frozen shoulder, which was given by the Lundberg. So there are two types of frozen shoulder. One is the primary and there is a secondary. So what do you mean by primary adhesive capsulitis? In this, there is no inciting event and there is no abnormal examination finding, which is usually idiopathic. But in secondary, as you all can remember by the term secondary, after having some inciting event, like what the triggering event. So there are three situations where the frozen shoulder can happen. First is the intrinsic, which is happening inside the shoulder joint itself, like a shoulder fracture or tendinitis or rotator cuff tear or degenerative joint. Extensive, which is outside the shoulder joint itself, like a head trauma or complex regional pain syndrome (CRPS) or Parkinson's disease or humeral fractures, other than the proximal humerus. Then because of some systemic, like diabetes, thyroid disease, myositis. So in diabetic patients, we commonly see this condition frozen shoulder. Then comes to the idiopathology. So what is basic pathology which is happening in the frozen shoulder? So basically it's kind of an inflammatory process which causes the fibroblastic proliferation of the joint capsule, which leads to the thickening of the capsule. And after thickening, after inflammatory process slows down, it eventually gets fibrosed. Fibrosed means it's like it stick to each other. Okay, and adherence of the capsule to itself in the humerus, which causes the motion loss, or the range of motion becomes decreased of the patient. Then what is happening is the fibroblast or the myofibroblast with abundant type 3 collagen is present. If you do the biopsy or do the histopathological, you can see this, which leads to the mechanical block to the motion. And globally, range of motion, eventually in advanced cases, there is a global restriction of the motion. Essential lesions involve the thoracohumeral ligament and the rotator interval capsule, which got adhered to itself. And in biopsy, you can see the chronic inflammatory infiltrate, absence of the synovial lining, and the moderate to extensively subsynovial fibrosis, because the end point of any inflammation causes fibrosis. So this is the arthroscopic view. In the left side picture, you can see this is the normal This is the normal shoulder joint, okay, in the left. And on the right side, as you all can see, there is a lot of fraying is there is a lot of redness, there is a lot of arteries or capillaries you can see all around. And this is because of all the inflammation is going on inside the shoulder joint. And this is known as the frozen shoulder arthroscopic view. Then comes to the clinical features. So basically, frozen shoulder has three stages. First of all, when the shoulder is getting freezed, okay, the freezing stage, and then after after freezing, it is shoulder joint is frozen. It is already frozen. Then it is thawing. Okay, so in the freezing stage, the pain is a lot. There is a lot of intense pains and limited mobility. In stiffness or the frozen shoulder, there is a less pain, but the stiffness is more pronounced, more persistent. In thawing, there is a diminished pain and the mobility is improving gradually. Okay, so this is the phase 1, gradual onset of diffuse shoulder pain. Then phase 2, stiffness. There is a restriction of the movement which lasts for 4 to 12 months. And then there is a thawing phase which lasts for weeks to months, and the motion increases, pain diminishes. Okay, so what is the most restricted movement in the frozen shoulder? It is the external or the lateral rotation which is mostly restricted, but otherwise in advanced cases there is a global restriction of range of motion of the shoulder. So what are the signs you can see in the physical examination on inspection? We can note any muscle atrophy of the scars. They will take prior surgeries, as we already learned about the intrinsic extrinsic causes of the frozen shoulder. Then in motion we can check all the range of motion of the shoulder, flexion, extension, external rotation, internal rotation, abduction, adduction. Okay, document all the motions in all the planes, limitations in motions, maybe slide and external rotation, as we have already learned. It is deficit most common finding. Then comes to the stages. So what are the stages of the adhesive capsulitis? There are 4 stages. First of all, there is a pre-adhesive stage in which the fibrinous inflammatory synovitis reaction occurs without adhesion formation. So basically, it's the initial type of inflammation where we have already seen in the arthroscopy view, there is only the redness, but the adhesions are not formed yet. So what is the clinical picture at this stage? Full motion only with the pain, and especially at the night. So patient will come to us with the night pain, and but the motion is full. Stage 2 is acute adhesive synovitis. So there is a proliferation of the synovium and early formation of adhesions, mostly in the inferior capsular fold. So clinical features will be the patient will come in this stage with the pain, and there is a mild motion loss, and mostly the external rotation of the shoulder is lost. Then stage 3 or the maturation stage, there is a involved less synovitis, more fibrosis, because as we have already learned that end stage of the inflammation is fibrosis. So axillary fold will be obliterated. On clinical features, pain will be less severe than in previous stages, but motion is significantly restricted. It means the stage is frozen stage. Then chronic stage, the adhesions are full mature and motion is severely reduced. Then how we will diagnose the frozen shoulder disease? So it's mainly the clinical thing. But we can do the other tests as well, like impingement test to rule out the rotator cuff disease. We can do the X-ray to see issues of osteopenia and use out the other causes. Then contrast MRI we can do. So in contrast MRI, decreased capsular volume with obliteration of inferior capsular fold we can see, and there is a scarring in the rotator interval. And joint capsule hypervascularity on gadolinium enhancement. So hypervascularity, as we have already seen in that arthroscopic picture. So one thing on MRI which is highly specific is capsular and synovial thickness more than 4 mm is highly specific but not sensitive. Okay, so this is the MRI. So there is a space reduction in the axillary recess. So the left one is the normal. In this, the normal axillary recess, the whitish part you can see, but in frozen shoulder, we can see the absent axillary recess because of obliteration. There is a fibrosis. So these are the other MRI findings. This is the normal MRI of the shoulder joint, in which you can see there is a subcoracoid fat triangle, which is marked by the asterisk. As you can all see this laser pointer. This is the subcoracoid fat triangle. But in this A picture, there is a subcoracoid fat triangle, this asterisk part. This is obliterated. Okay. Then on picture B, there is a thickening of the inferior capsule by this arrows you can all see. Then there is no thesis as well. This is the another picture of the frozen shoulder patient, and in this there is a subcoracoid fat triangles. All this thing is obliterated. This all black thing. Okay, so basically what is the treatment? We have to consult the patient, like by doing physical therapy, NSAIDs, we can give oral or intraarticular steroid injections, heat or the cryotherapy. Now, what is the operative treatment? In this, we use the manipulation anesthesia. So, there is a manual what is FEAR. So, we have to flexion, external rotation, abduction, and rotations other than the external rotation. We have to do the anesthesia. And then we can use the arthroscopic or open capsular release. As we already learned that the capsule has got adhered to each other, we have to do the arthroscopic release. So what are the indications of arthroscopic release is when we have already tried extensive therapy and which has failed 3 months post therapy, arthroscopy will spare the subscapularis tendon with the advantage of releasing intra-articular and subacromial adhesions.
Thank you so much, sir. As you all know, as physiotherapists, we often see many cases of frozen shoulders, and many of them come to our OPDs and clinics. So, understanding what we already do in our physiotherapy treatment, that we go for oscillations and mobilizations and full range of motion exercises and all. Today, we will be talking about a technique that has come up, which can be used for these patients, which is called the Spencer technique. And to make you aware of this technique, I would like to request Dr. Prachi Vaniki, PhD scholar of our college, to come and talk about a case of frozen shoulder and how this Spencer technique and ultrasound can be a useful maneuver to treat such conditions.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, respected principal sirs. It's a lovely department. And respected Arthur sir, Professor sir, my PhD sir, Professor and respected faculty members and students. Now, I would like to explain the expansive technique apart in the management of the frozen shoulder lesion with the ultrasound therapy. This is the anatomy of the shoulder joint, which presented by the Dr. Suyar, and this is all the joints and stabilizers, capsular humerus, which presented earlier by the Dr. Suyar. And this is the normal movements occur in the shoulder joint. This is the flexion, extension, adduction, abduction, internal and external rotations. Now, I would like to explain what is a frozen shoulder. Frozen shoulder is an inflammatory condition of the shoulder joint presented by the pain and the reduced range of motion of the shoulder joint. Patient also presented the stiffness of the shoulder that progress over the time, leading to a loss of motion in all the planes, characterized by the progressive pain and stiffness which usually resolve spontaneously after the 18 months. Epidemiology affects 2 to 5% of the total world population. It is more common between the age of the 40 to 65, more in the women than the men. Bilateral involvement occurs in the 10 to 40% of the cases, doesn't usually occur in the same shoulder, and 70% of the cases are the common. Etiology as the primary and the secondary. Primary is the no clear nose, it is idiopathic, and the secondary involves immobilization, diverticulitis, hypo and hypothyroidism, autoimmune diseases, trauma, and the history of cervical disc diseases and the enormous diseases. The stages of the frozen shoulder, first is the freezing stage, pain stage, and second one is the frozen stiffness stage, and third one is the thawing phase, the dissolution stage. Freezing phase, it takes only 2 to 9 months. There is an insidious onset of the pain with the progressive loss of motion. It is characterized by the synovitis that progresses to the capsular thickening, particularly in the anterior and the inferior portion of the capsule, with an associated reduction in the synovial fluid. Second one is the frozen phase. It lasts between the 4 to 12 months. Fibrosis of the capsule is more pronounced. Thickening of the rotator cuff tendon is common. There is a pain with a progressive loss of motion. And third one is the thawing phase, which takes place about the 6 to 9 months, there is a pain resolution and complete range of motion is gradually attained after 1 to 3 years. Diagnosis, there is two types of diagnosis, clinical presentation and physical presentation. Clinical presentation, patient comes with the gradual onset of the progressive pain worsen during night, awakes from the sleep, especially when lying towards the affected shoulder. Reduced range of motion in all the pains, difficulty with all the activity of daily living such as dirtying the shirt, combing hair, complaint of the neck pain down the arm, pain puts the stress on the neck. Physical examination, miserable reduction in the both passive and active range of motion, external rotation is markedly restricted, abduction is restricted, flexion and internal rotation is slightly restricted. Right leg, systemic illness where we will not do any physical treatment. Systemic illness, unexplained weight loss, fever, lecture, which may indicate malignancy and infection, trauma, recent significant trauma causing a sudden loss of range of motion, potentially indicating fracture or dislocation, neurological signs, sudden onset of the severe numbness, tingling, or the weakness that follows the non-detrimental pattern, severe neural pain, constant unbearable pain that doesn't respond to the risk or the conservative pain management, suggesting a more sinister pathology. Therefore, pain that is not affected by the shoulder or combined by the chest pain or the respiratory symptoms suspicious of the inflammatory arthritis or the symptoms spreading to the multiple joints simultaneously. Yellow flags where we can use the physiotherapy but cautiously, unhelpful believing that the pain is harmful, uncontrollable or the movement will permanently damage the shoulder, pain behavior, fear of movement or avoidance of the daily activities, psychological factor, depression, high anxiety level, stress related to the work and personal life, misconception of the treatment, accepting the passive treatment rather than engaging in the active exercise. Now, I would like to express the case description of the frozen shoulder. Patient is a 65-year-old female retired teacher. History of the present illness, patient developed shoulder pain from 2 months start onset sudden when she was sleeping at night. Next day morning was present in the right shoulder pain, symptom fluctuation, pain, stiffness, decreased range of motion, aggravating factors, heavy weight lifting, dusting, combing and the household activities, relieving factor, supine line, medical consultation evaluated by the orthopedician. The pain is reduced slightly by the medication and referred to the physiotherapist. Physiotherapist assessment identified as a frozen shoulder and the assessment of the patient on the expanding shoulder pain index, shoulder pain and disability index. The spreading the self-administrated questionnaire that consists 2 dimensions, one for pain and one for the functional activities. The pain scale. We have a 5 dimension in this scale and we have a 0 to 10 rating. 0 where is no pain and 10 is the maximum pain. We ask some question to the patient and the patient answers a question. First question, the 8 is worst, 0 or 10. Patient mark it number 10. When lying on the involved side, the patient is marking it on the 7 rating. Reaching on the something on a high shaft, the patient marking on the 9 stays, the touching on your brain, patient mark it on the 6, and pushing on the involved arm, the patient mark it on the 7 number. This is all the rating given by the patient on the pain scale. Now we would I am coming on the disability scale where we ask the patient 8 questions and patient mark it again 0 to 10. 0 where is no pain and 10 is much difficult. Washing your hand 7, washing your back 9, putting on the undershirt or the jumper 8, putting on the shirt that button down is the front 6, putting on the pin 3, placing on the high shelf. 7. Carrying a heavy object on the 10 pounds, 4.5 kilograms. 9. Removing something from your back pocket, patient market on the 7. Now the total interpretation of the score, 37 for the pain and the 56 for the disability. Now total status score is the 93 out of 130 and the total spotting percentage is the 71.53%. It is the pre-assessment. Now we come to the range of motion. We are taking the range of motion pre-assessment, flexion, abduction and internal rotation. Flexion 110, abduction 120 and internal rotation 40 on the glucometer. Muscle strength, 2 muscle, taking in mind the study, pectoral muscle and the deltoid muscle. Before the treatment, the muscle strength is the 65 and the deltoid 55. The goals of the physiotherapy management. Phase 1. Acute phase goals, freezing phase. Time 1 to 2 weeks. Primary goals, reduce pain and inflammation, protect joint, maintain range of motion, prevent muscle wasting and patient education. Phase 2. Strength and control phase. Time, 3rd week, goals, improve the joint mobility, increase capsular flexibility, restore range of motion, maintain strength. Phase 3, functional restoration phase. Time, 4th week, goals, restore full range of motion, improve strength and endurance, return to the normal function and prevent reoccurrence. Before going to treatment, I would like to explain the expansions technique, which is my main focus technique. The expansions is a technique that can be used on the glenohumeral joint in order to improve the joint mobility or address myofascial restriction. The physiological effect of the expansions technique is that the shoulder is performed by bringing the shoulder joint to its destructive failure while applying the articulatory technique using the repetitive extension, circumduction with compression, circumduction with traction, adduction, internal rotation. This is comprised of the group of 7 exercises. At the stage 1, first stage is the extension stage. The physiotherapist flex the elbow and carries the shoulder to the extension restricted area where the 5 articulatory spring movements, spring motions are applied at the end range of the motion while stabilizing the joint with the therapist's other hand, like this. First is the extension stage. In this, the physiotherapist flex the elbow and extend the shoulders, and another hand is stabilize the scapula and 5 oscillatory movements. Second stage is the flexion stage. The therapist extends the patient's elbow and carries the shoulder to the flexion restrictive area. 5 articulated split motions are applied at the end range of the motion while stabilizing the joint with the therapist's other hand. Second one is the flexion movement where the therapist extends the elbow and flex the shoulder joint with stabilizing the scapula. Third stage is the circumduction with compression. The therapist flaps the elbow while applying the compressive force down through the glenohumeral joint while stabilizing the joint with the therapist's other hand. The therapist circumducts the patient's shoulder through the 5 small and enlarging circles clockwise and counterclockwise direction while maintaining the compression. Third one stage is the compression with the circumduction. In this, which the therapist compress the glenohumeral joint to downwards and circumduct the shoulder joint clockwise and anti-clockwise. Fourth stage is the circumduction with traction. The therapist extend the elbow and apply the traction force up through for the glenohumeral joint while stabilizing the joint. The test other hand, the therapist circumducts the patient's shoulder through the 5 small and enlarging circles clockwise, then counterclockwise direction while maintaining the traction. The fourth one stage is the compression with the traction. In this, the therapist tracks the glenohumeral joint and force the upside and circumflex the shoulder joint clockwise and anti-clockwise. Fifth stage is the abduction. The therapist stands the next to the shoulder being treated. The therapist carries the shoulder to the abduction restrictive area where the 5 articulated spring motions are applied at the end range of the motion while stabilizing the joint with the therapist other hand. This causes the fifth stage is the abduction movement. Sixth is the adduction. The physiotherapist carries the shoulder adduction. Restrictive failure where 5 oscillatory spring motions are applied at the end ends of the motion while stabilizing the shoulders with the physiotherapist's other hand. And the seventh is the last internal rotation stage. The therapist places the patient's other hand on their back and carries to the shoulder internal rotation of back. The restrictive failure where the 5 articulating spring motions are applied at the end range of the motion while stabilizing the joint with the therapist's other hand. This last one is sixth one is the internal rotation and last one is the glenohumeral joint pump. These all are the 7 stages for the spasms. Now I will explain my physiotherapy treatment protocol for the patient. First week for the pain management and mobility. First week we will give the pendulum exercise to the patient and shoulder breathing exercise, expansion gentle movement. Not all the stages but gentle movement because there is a pain. So only the gentle movement are applied, not all the expansion technique are applied on the first week. Pain reduced slightly and patient confidence is improved. Electrotherapy, we use the tanks for the pain reduction therapy and ultrasound 0.8 intensity 5 minutes 3 hours. Second week protocol, progressive expansion technique. We will progress the expansion technique as the flexion and the abduction on the flexion and the abduction movement. First week we use the gently movement. Second week we progress the expansors on the patient. As a conservative treatment, we use the weight and the wall climbing exercise. From this, we will improve the flexion and abduction. Electrotherapy again, we use the tanks and the ultrasound. Pointed intensity 5 minutes, 3 hours. Third week, exercise protocol. Therapeutic exercises for the muscle strength. Stabilizing exercises for the shoulder stability and the advanced expansors. Last one. Last one for the external rotation. Fourth week exercise protocol, full expansor sequence. We can apply the full expansor sequence at the fourth week because there is a pain is minimal, restore independence and the muscle strength is improving now. Now we use all the stages of the expansor technique. Electrotherapy again we use the tanks and ultrasound therapy 0.8 intensity 5 minutes 3 hours. In fourth we also give the patient resistance exercises for the muscle strength. Result: the patient showed a positive changes in her condition with decreased shoulder pain intensity after the fourth week of the treatment. During the period, especially shoulder pain and disability index changed from the 71.53 to 41.02. The patient demonstrated significant shoulder movement range of motion, flexion from 110 to 160, abduction 120 to 175, and the internal rotation 40 to 45. Muscle strength improved significantly in the pectoral and the deltoid region from the 65, 55 to 85, 79 respectively in the bicycle machine and functionally got better. The patient can do hair combing, reaching high object testing and lift at least 3.5 kgs.
So I have a general question from in my regard that should we continue ultrasound therapy till the 4th week, or we can avoid it and keep it till the 2nd week as well, as we are moving through a pain-free range as well as the pain is minimal. So is it necessary, as the students should know, is it necessary to use the ultrasound therapy till the 4th week, or we can avoid electrotherapy with pens and ultrasound at an early stage of 2 weeks or so?
Yes, and this is up to the patient condition. If a patient has a tenderness or the tender point, we can use the ultrasound. If there is no pain, no tenderness, and the improved range of motion, we will stop the ultrasound therapy to 2.5 weeks or till 2 weeks.
Thank you, Dr. Taji. And I would now like to request Dr. Madhusudhan Tiwari, sir, to say a few words and add some suggestions and advices to this PDCM.
Good afternoon, everybody. Respected Dr. K.K. Mathur, sir, Professor Grade Department of Orthopedics. Dr. Poddar, sir, Senior Professor Department of Orthopedics, and all the medical members of this college, and even the speakers. Both the speakers are very great. Dr. Serious about the United about the medical part of the management of children's shoulders. Dr. Prachi, our PhD scholar, to explain about the legislative part of the children's shoulder. So they were very well, but I expected two questions from the audience, partially from the education students, and in terms, because children's shoulder is very common condition on the field. There's one question from my side. There are three terms we use in children's shoulder. There is a shoulder, and spondylitis. Are they, these three terms are same, or is any difference in these three terms? Periarthritis shoulder, children's shoulder, and spondylitis.
They are synonymous.
They are synonymous because in this condition there is a lesson of one in the capsule, shoulder capsule. I think in the real capsule is in the very capsule also. And because of the capsule better, we see the restrictions of the external testing and transferring our this occurs. And second question. Spencer technical applied. Can you tell me about the how justify the results? What was the basis of the demonstration basis of the result? How this result came?
This is a mobilization technique. With when we mobilize the shoulder joint beyond the restrictive range, it will open up the shoulder and improve the range of motion. Oscillating movement.
Because of the mobility effect of the Spencer. Instead of using this Spencer, which we use other things like data engineering, why are you using this kind? You are mastering this group. Thank you very much. It was a good presentation. Indeed, you presented well. Next time we present even better than this, and thank you. the coordinator of PTCR, Dr. Kumar, Dr. Vidhi. They organize well, and every time they are organizing the PTCR, hopeful that next time they will more in a good way and other interesting conditions. Because in a lot of cases we are treating IPD, we need to collect the cases, interesting cases. Wherever you are taking cases, careful organization should be there so that we can keep the record of cases and present. Even we can publish this case presentation in our journal also.